Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. We're going to be looking at a interview, Sylvester Stallone on making the Rocky movie, which turned out to be a classic. I thought it was quite a inspirational video. It was put on the archive some years ago by the BBC. I'm just going to run some of the interview back.
Written several scripts before, but was there any special reason for you to write this one, to write Rocky?
Well, I felt at the time that cinema, at least the movies I had been seeing, were at an all-time low. Everything was anti-society, anti-Christ, anti-government, anti-everything, and there was no one to root for. And I also feel that films are very cyclic, so I wanted to get back to the cycle of the films of the 40s and the 50s, where people say, hey, gee, I missed the good old films, yet Hollywood hasn't taken heed and hasn't made any good old-fashioned type films where morality was at the forefront. So I took the opportunity to write this particular film, of course, being somewhat selfish because I had myself in mind for it, but that was the main motivation.
It was fairly presumptuous of you, wasn't it, to expect to be able to star in it, because your career up to then had been small parts, right?
Yeah, that's kind of you to even say small. Yeah, they were. I was mostly what is known as atmosphere. I was in the background, or the guy that was the drunk that was being stepped over in the gutter, and other lame roles. But I felt that, geez, if I was going to go down, at least into professional obscurity, I wanted to at least have the opportunity to say to myself, well, you tried. You put your best foot forward, and you didn't make it. So that's what, I guess you might say, provoked me into writing the script, because it wasn't something that I had given a lot of thought to. I just knew that I had to do it one time, and it was innate. Now, the thing was, what was the proper vid?
This was, I think it was so inspirational because, like I said, he was pretty written off in a lot of things. You know, who was going to support him, who was going to put the money up for it at the end of the day. But the script was absolutely brilliant. And what it was about, it was actually selling that script and himself, that he can actually take that film further and to the max. And don't forget, it was the late 70s as well, so it must have been quite, difficult to actually make it, because there isn't that sort of competition there is these days in film media at the end of this. So it must have been pretty tough to put it across the production board to actually get a contract. But like I said, the determination of Sylvester Stallone to actually do this is phenomenal. Let's listen more of the interview.
I surely couldn't pass myself off, at least as a lawyer in a three-piece suit. I just don't think I have that kind of appeal or whatever it is. So I wanted to take it much more basic, a man from the street. All right, what kind of a man? An underdog, and that being a professional fighter, I think, has that connotation to it.
But, when these big wheeler dealers got hold of your script and they were told that Sylvester Stallone wanted to star in it, they must have said, who?
Right. Or what?
Or what, yes. How did you sell yourself to them?
Usually it's the old syndrome of knocking on the windows, pestering them, pressing my face in the door, honking their horn in the driveway. In other words, making a real pain in the neck out of myself. And slowly they began to see, well, perhaps he's got something. They first showed it to Jimmy Caan, and then Burt Reynolds and Ryan O'Neal and Gene Hackman and Robert Redford, and they showed it to all these people. But I kept saying, I work a lot cheaper and a lot harder and for a lot longer. And also I think that they were taking up the kind of like the pioneer spirit of it. It wasn't going, it's a small movie. It was made for like 1/10 or 1/15 of what they pay to say a James Bond movie or Pink Panther.
It cost about $1 million, in fact.
Well, it came in at $960,000, which is what a good toothpaste commercial cost in the United States, really. So
basically, his determination in putting the film forward and basically, trying to promote it was absolutely brilliant, because it could have been so easy just to give it up, or to actually sell the script. And obviously, don't forget, he wanted to act in the film, which was another problem basically because he wasn't a well-known actor, and they were probably thinking, let's just buy the film. Where if he'd sold the film, he probably wouldn't be where he is today because of the Rocky movies and actually start. So it's easy to sell and then just sail off into the distance. He didn't do that. He wanted more than that. He wanted to actually make that film his own, which a lot of people today don't really do at the end of this. So you've got to give this guy hats off to what he actually done.
They didn't have that much to lose, but more than that, they really felt that this was kind of like a special movie that would appeal to the masses. And it's the kind of film that hadn't been done in quite a while, where there wasn't any cursing, yet you didn't miss the cursing, and that type.
But after all, when you first went along with your script, I mean, they liked the script, but they were so desperate not to have you that they kept offering you increasingly large sums of money to go away, didn't they?
Right, it went up to about $265,000.
Not to appear in the film.
Right, to stay away, to get off my lawn, boy. But what they didn't count on is when a person hasn't had that type of money, you really don't miss it. In other words, if you haven't ridden in a Rolls Royce, you don't mind bouncing around in a Volkswagen. You don't have that frame of reference. But more than that, I knew that if I sold it, even for $500,000, I knew that after the money was gone, I would become very bitter for having sold out, because my one love was to at least fail on my own terms. I wanted to see if I could act, because all these bit parts that you're talking about, you really couldn't say this kid had talent or he's just a big fake. So they were caught up in kind of like the enthusiasm. Jeez, wow, my God, well, why not? All right, we'll give him a chance. And he put a lot of clauses in the contract, like if I fell in love with my leading man, or if I curse a nun, or if I don't brush my teeth, or whatever, I could be removed from the script after production after 5 to 10 days. But all that aside, I really think that they just wanted to get rid of me. And they said, well, let's put him in a movie, that'll get rid of him.
So basically, they wanted to, pay him off, which was quite a lot of money they were offering. So they must have really liked the script. And basically they knew, the production companies knew that they could actually make a movie or make money off this guy. So they think, part-time actor, let's buy this script off him, basically pay him off, and that's the end of this, and we can go on to make millions. But like I said, his determination and stuck with it basically was unbelievable at the end of the day, because he obviously saw a vision that was going to take him further, not only in movies but for himself as well, and put him on the map as an absolutely movie star at the end of the day. That's incredible. It's also inspiration. I don't think sometimes Sylvester Stallone gets the accolade he should have got, especially that he ripped the Rocky movies, and I think a lot of people forget that it was his imagination that basically made it basically one of the best boxing films in history.
2 months, that kind of thing.
And you did it, in fact, for a very small fee. Was it $20,000 plus a percentage?
Right, $20,000, and what we have is a Screen Actors Guild minimum, which is about $600 a week, $620 after taxes.
But were you not really quite poor at that time? Your wife, I've read all these stories about your wife going out to support you while you sat at home and pounded the typewriter. All this was true, was it?
Oh yeah, at that time, I must admit, my life was definitely on the wane, at least professionally. I was emotionally, spiritually, physically bankrupt. I had about $106 in the bank. I had a landlord, she was a female landlord, but she was so big that when she came to collect the rent, like an entire shadow would cover the building. It's like a total eclipse. And I mean, I'm not a small man, but she was a vicious individual, and she would have thought nothing about taking my car and bending it in half when she didn't get her money. And so I had $106, the rent was $300, I had a pregnant wife. I have a very huge British dog, as a matter of fact, a bull mastiff, who would eat anything, organic or unorganic, anything. Cactus.
Including the landlady.
Oh, the landlady. I mean, feed it. What do you want to feed it? A brick. Give it a brick tonight. Anything. So I had that kind of like dilemma. So you might say I had quite a bit of fuel to sit down and write the script. I wrote the script in about 3.5 days, and only because I could hear the wolf at the door, literally. And that part was true. It really was. It was.
So he actually wrote the Rocky One script in under half a week. That is absolutely phenomenal. So it showed the guy's got a intelligent mind, because it's not easy to sort of write a feature film and then basically sell it. So it must have been something he thought about that he wanted to put in the movies, because like what he said earlier, that there weren't that many good movies, or they were depicting something like the same as other movies. So to be inspired by writing it and seeing it through is again phenomenal. Have a look at some of the comments people thought. I think he's again pretty underrated for what he actually did.
Getting right down to scraping the old bottom of the barrel.
Did you not feel any doubts at all? I mean, when on that first day of shooting, when you step out of your caravan or dressing room or whatever to go and appear before the camera, was there never a moment when you thought, my God, am I doing the right thing?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Up until that time, I was bluffing. You know, they said, yeah, I can act. I'm a good actor. Just give me a chance. Of course I can do it. I can out act anyway. Don't worry about it. Then they said, okay, do it. They called my bluff. Now, if I go out there and make a fool out of myself, I've wasted $1 million. I've destroyed my reputation. Any young artist that comes along and says that they'd like to make a movie, they're gonna say, hey, don't you remember Stallone? Do you want to make a bomb? And my name would be synonymous with turkeys and bombs. He said, hey, why don't you go out and make a Stallone film? Which would mean turkey all the time, tax write-off. Make a Stallone movie for tax write-off. So it was tremendous fear. And when that fear subsided was at the last second, as I was going out of the trailer. We ride around these trailers to the set. It was freezing. It was about 4:30 in the morning. The winds were blowing down the street, very dramatic, and it was cold. And there was the Philadelphia City Hall clock there lit up, and the wind was blowing and mist and all that. And as I'm pulling out of the stepping out of the trailer, I passed this mirror, and I said, "All right, now you're gonna do it, or you're gonna sit here and become a bum for the rest of your life. Are you into the character? Are you the character?" And someone outside said, "All right, Sylvester, let's go." I said, No, you got the name wrong. It's Rocky." Bang, right away, and I felt that when it said, "Geez, I'm not Sylvester anymore. I've got to be this character."
So he had to get into that sort of Rocky mentality and acting, because it became real. So when things become real, you've got to actually prove yourself. And I suppose it'd be not so much that production companies didn't really want him in the movie, that he was actually thinking, can I actually do it? Probably doubting himself, but he still went through with it. And like I said, he's actually in the movie now. Let's start shooting this thing. Do you know what I mean? Which was pretty incredible, because it'd been easy to say, oh, let's just get someone else to do it, or, the part's not for me, or give me a smaller part. So he went through with it, which was phenomenal. In my mind, there's no going back, especially if you want to make it.
I stepped out. I saw the director laying in all this wind and dust, and everyone was so into it that I felt very, very safe. And after seeing the first daily, the rushes, the first day's prints, I knew we had if nothing else, I had a good home movie on my hand. A good 2.5-hour home movie that my parents would enjoy, if nothing else.
It's about boxing, of course, but it is about more than that, is it?
Oh,
Is it about your own struggle, basically?
What it is I took my particular plight, which isn't unique. It's every artist or any man who has ever wanted to do something, man or woman, I mean, it's wanted to do something that has not been able to do it because of the inability to get a break. The opportunity has never knocked on their door, for example. So I said, geez, if I could take my plight as an actor and put it into a real underdog, a very physical, that being a boxer, and tell my story, like I couldn't get an agent and he couldn't get a manager, and I had no love in my life at the time, and he didn't either, and so on and so forth. So that's how that came about. So, because I really didn't think the audience, if I say I'd written it about a struggling writer in California, in Hollywood, And here he is bombing around in his convertible with a suntan, but his scripts aren't selling. So what?
Yeah.
I mean, at least he has a tan, right? What do you convert? Right, with tomato juice or orange juice.
I think he put his life. In some ways, it's like he put his life into the movie as a struggling actor, but used the boxing film to get his point across. That is, in some ways, that is brilliant, because all actors start somewhere. But I don't think he was actually given a chance in hell at first, because no one actually knew at that time whether it was going to be a box office. Anyone who hasn't seen the film Rocky, watch it at the end of the day, because it's not just a boxing film. There's so many emotions which actually go through that film, which actually gets you gripped. It is worth a watch, 100%.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So this I set in a very gloomy area of Philadelphia, which is very, very industrial type town, a muscular town, a town that has gone historically kind of like down the proverbial tubes. And that's why I chose that. Plus, it's a town. If there was ever a miracle going to happen in America, it would happen in Philadelphia. Really.
And in fact, that's what happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, really was.
Because to complete the fairy story, I mean, it's an immense success, this film in America, isn't it?
Right. It is. It is. Some people have said, well, this could never happen, that an underdog would get a shot at the title like this. Well, I'd like to take issue with that. Of course, it happened many, many hundreds of times. Ali has done it, and it happened with Joe Louis when he had the Bum of the Month Club, and it happens all the time. So it's a very, very feasible plot. It's just the most of the thing that had happened to me is a little miraculous. That's the only strange thing about it. And it's a love story, more than a fight film.
But it's made you into a very big star, hasn't it? I mean, you're recognised wherever you go in the States.
Oh, God. I keep thinking about that term, though. Not to take issue again, but I think the word star, I think of like a ball of gas. I don't think...
It's going back to, like I said, determination, courage, believing in yourself, self-satisfaction. I think that's what he got out of it, and that he got written of. So it was definitely a personal fight, as well as acting as the underdog as a boxer. I think it was the sort of being the underdog in acting as well. And once again, you've got to be inspired by it, because, like I said, he wrote that for him and he saw it through now. And a lot of people see the Rocky movies, the music, the training schedules as inspirations to actually change themselves or change their lives, and sometimes be a bit heroic in themselves. And that is absolutely phenomenal.
Like to be considered just a performer, but it has made me, it has killed the wolf at the door, and now I have the opportunity to go on and do films that aren't always in speeding cars or about slinky women or a guy with a bad complexion or these terrible plots that they have given me. I mean, they had plots before that, like Linda in the Meat Cleaver, terrible shows. I mean, God,
Great stuff.
you're right. For 4 years of college for this.
And what about the Rocky? Are there going to be any more stories about Rocky, films about Rocky?
Well, I was thinking about having like Rocky on Venus. No, sir, just a very, very simple movie about a boxer who gets caught in a space capsule. And he's transported. Now, you don't believe that, do you?
Not really. In Philadelphia it could happen, but not here.
There is. I wrote Rocky as a trilogy because I think that this type of character cannot be extinguished after one movie. He's right at the peak. When people see the film, they'll know what I mean. And entering into that second phase is almost as interesting as the first.
But aren't you then in danger of getting yourself into the other trap of acting, that you'll only be associated with the one character?
Right. That is a danger. So that won't happen, at least for, I'll do 2 films in between that. But if I had to be locked into any kind of character, I would sure rather be locked into this one than, let's say, the Count of Monte Cristo, where I have to run around in leotards for the rest of my life.
Anyway, you can worry about it while you count your money.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I only have about $400 more than when I started. So
I can't believe that. You must have made a lot of money off this.
No, because I had a lot of bills, you might say. That big beastie landlord came back and took her a share, and taxes took the rest of it. So, but like I said before we can.
So it's not all about money. I think it's basically it's seeing it through what inspires you, what keeps you going, your interest, your passions. And I think you saw all of it there. So I think anyone who wants to go into like basically being an actor or a dancer, keep it moving. Keep talking to people. Keep putting the videos out there if you've got a talent, and don't give up, because like I said, these movies now, they are icon movies. Anyone who hasn't seen the Rocky movies, watch it from Rocky 1 and tell me you won't be inspired by it. Phenomenal. Just the finishing touches of the video.
Come on, I would have done the whole thing for like a donut and a tuna fish sandwich. The money meant nothing. It was the opportunity to at least prove to myself that I wasn't a liar, that I wasn't living a life of disillusionment, because that's very difficult when you think of yourself as being a very creative person, and you turn around and at say 40, 50, 60 years old, you realize, gee, you're not so creative, you're terrible, you've been leading a lie.
Yeah, so an absolutely inspiring video. Like I said, believe in yourself, believe in you can actually do it, and it's not a lie. I think if you put your mind to something, you will achieve it. And you just got to have the right people around you to believe it. If you get knocked back, just keep going. So for me personally, if you haven't watched the videos, or you want to go into some kind of training, whether it's boxing training or whether it's just to the gym or it's just for the run, listen to some of the music, listen to some of the phrases, watch the Rocky movies, because I think they've inspired a lot of people. Look at the comments on the video. This guy had proved himself basically through a lot of people who didn't actually believe him at the start, and look where he is now, a megastar. But the Rocky movies, they're never going to die. And the first one from what, 1977, you know, that's a long time ago now, and they're still inspirational videos. I hope you liked the video anyway. I'll have some more inspirational videos coming soon. But like I said, if you haven't watched the Rocky movies, watch Rocky 1 and go through them all. I think you'll like them. Thank you. Bye. Oh, and don't forget to basically subscribe to Streamline Entertainment. Your boy Marvin.